Hello, Chris Betcher here. I had a couple of people ask me recently about managing email with Gmail, and seeing I use Gmail a lot, I thought I'd just explain to you some of the techniques that I use to manage my email, and some of them you might find useful. So, just start there with Gmail, and the basic thing with my email is I actually have quite a few different sources of email that I have to deal with. And I actually have three what I would call real accounts. So I've got this account with Gmail itself, plus I've got two other accounts that are provided by my internet service provider. And they're actually real email accounts. In other words, there's a real mailbox and mail really arrives on it. And what I want to do is I want to direct all of those email accounts into Gmail. So whenever any mail comes in on any of those three accounts, it's actually picked up from within Gmail. So that's the first step. The second thing is I actually have a lot of email accounts that I want to sometimes be able to send from, and by that I mean there's obviously the original three. So in other words, if a message comes in there on the Gmail account and I hit reply, I want it to go out on the Gmail account, and so on for the other three. So I want to be able to receive mail from those three accounts, but also to send mail from those three accounts via Gmail as well. As well as that, I've actually got two other what I would call virtual accounts, because I have some domain names there that I've redirected mail to. It's a whole other story. But even though I'm not actually receiving mail on those real accounts, because they're not a real physical account, they're just a redirection, I want mail to go out from my service as though it come from that real account. So I need to be able to send from those. And of course the other thing is I have a couple of other addresses that I've picked up. There's the one from work, there's another one from a club I belong to, and I sometimes want to be able to send mail as that person, even though that mail account doesn't actually exist on my system at all. I want to be able to pretend that my mail's going out from that account. So, for example, the work one there, the C Betcher at PLC NSW@AUAU, I'd like to be able to send mail from my work account when I'm not on my work computer, but I want it to look like I'm on my work computer. So there's a bunch of reasons why you'd want to do that, but basically Gmail will let you do all of that. And the neat thing about this is once you get it set up, you can actually receive email on any one of those three accounts, but you can send it out through any of those 7 accounts I've got there. So I could get a message in on Gmail but send it out through my work address. I could get it in on the OptusNet account, but I could send it out via the Canadian Australian Club account. So there's a lot of flexibility in Gmail once you set this stuff up. So let me just take you through and give you a couple of little examples. Okay, so here we are looking at my Gmail account here, and there's a couple of things about Gmail that I think are really powerful. And the first one is this idea of redirecting mail around. So let me just show you. Up here in the corner there it says Settings. So I'm just going to click Settings and go down here to where it says Accounts. Now, when you turn Accounts on, here is where those accounts are set up. So down here where it says Get Mail from Other Accounts, and here's the two real accounts that I own provided by the ISP. Now I don't have to list the Gmail account obviously, because that's just accepted that I'm in Gmail, so of course I'll get mail from the Gmail account. So you can do that, and if you want to add more, if you actually own other email addresses that are real email addresses that you have a username and password for, you can simply click down here where it says Add a Mail Account of Your Own, and you go through and you put the details in. So you put the email address in and you go through, it asks you for the username and password. That's pretty easy, and so you can then pick up mail from any account you actually own, anything that's a real ISP account. That's good. Up here where it says Send Mail As, you can actually here create as many email addresses as you like. You have to actually have access to them, so you can't just set up somebody else's email account, for example, and pretend to send it as them. What will happen once you set this up, and you do it just by clicking here just to set this up, you put the email address in. It will then send you an email and ask you to validate it, so it's checking you are in fact the owner of that account. But once you set that stuff up, then you end up with these different sending accounts, and over here you can choose which one to make as the default. So if I go and look at one, for example, I go and look at say my work account and edit the info on that. So you can see I've just set it up there with that email address and that name, and it really is as simple as that. Okay, the next real question is how do you use that? How do you actually implement it? So if you come back here to the inbox, and then up in here where you've got the Compose Mail button, just give that a click, and you come in here to what you'd normally expect, the ability to send mail. But you might notice that now you've set this up, this From field actually becomes a drop-down box. and there's all the email addresses I've set up. So if I want to send this from my work address, for example, just pick it off the list, and now this email goes out as though it came from the work address. Pretty clever. Want to change it to something else, just click on something else and choose it, and now I'm sending from that address. Of course, if you have one of these things, an iPhone or an iPod Touch, there is a Gmail client on this so that you can pick up your mail from here, and of course it stays perfectly synchronized with Gmail on the desktop. If you've got a mobile phone, you can pick it up from there, because a lot of mobile phones will have Gmail applications. And because Gmail is an IMAP client, which is a technical term for saying that it's one mailbox that all stays in sync no matter what you check it from. So you can pull all your mail into one place and use any device to check it. It starts to become a really, really useful tool. So there you go. So that's how I configure my Gmail. There's one last thing I just want to show you before you go. So I just go back to settings. No, I don't want to save that message. Go back to the settings here where we were, and just go back to the accounts page where we started. And I just want to draw your attention to this down here that says, when receiving a message, you have two options. One is to reply from the same address to which the message was sent. In other words, if it comes in on a Gmail account, it goes out on the Gmail account. If it comes in on the work account, it goes out on the work account. That's you might like to set it up like that so you don't have to think about this. It just automatically goes out. And of course you can override that at any time. You can always switch it at the last minute as it goes out. Or you can choose one email address, which is your actual one main email address, and you can always send it from that just by switching the always reply from default address. And that default address is whatever you've set it up to be over here. So I hope that helps you a little bit with configuring your Gmail and making it a whole lot more useful than maybe you realized it was, because it really is a very powerful email client.